Okay, so we have a few methods left to get to. We'll start with, I'm going to start with toString. It'll allow us to check stuff with our client a little easier. So we wanted to return a string representation of the list. I'm going to make it my last method. So put below these Booleans, public string toString. We want to think about, I'm going to set up just returning an empty string for a minute. What is the representation we want? We want to return a bracketed, comma separated representation of a list. And we want to think about what that looks like. So in the special cases, so if I want to look at, oh, I can't do that while I'm sharing, can I? So the thing is, what if our list is empty? So if our list is empty, we just want to return 2 square brackets. I guess I can do it like this. Sorry. So, we have a couple of choices here. If we have, say, some list 8, 7, 6, we'd like to return the string that looks like that. We want to be careful. If there's nothing in the list, it looks like that. I suppose we should also look at, what happens if it just has the one thing in the list. So when I think about this, it's always a fence post problem. They all have the front bracket and they all have the last bracket. So those are two things that we can put regardless of what's inside the list. And then when we come in here, we're going to do our first element. And then we're going to treat these guys as blocks that print together, the comma, the space, and the number that follows. And then when we're out of numbers, so if we go back to what our list looks like, we have some front pointing here at 8. That points to a mode that contains 7. That points at a node containing 6. And that guy points at null. So how do we know if it's empty? That's if the front is null. How do we know when we've printed all the numbers? So, what are we going to do? If it's not empty, if front is not null, well, we're going to start with the first thing, which is front.data. And we would add that to say the result. Then we want to run through this idea of having a current. So again, current in this case is going to start at front.next. And then we're going to say, while current is not null, so what's going to happen here? Well, current is not null. So right now, current is the second pointer there. It's not null. So we want to grab that. We can advance current. Well, first grab that data element. So current dot next dot data. And we want to add that with the comma and the space. So I got a comma and a space. We're adding all that to this result. Sorry, my thing is kind of bad, weird looking there. So while current is not null, we're going to add that data element, and then we're going to bump current up. Current equals current.next. So we grab that 7, we print it in our thing. So our result now would have the bracket, the 8, it's going to do the comma and the 7. The current is going to advance to there. It's not null, so it's going to grab the comma and the 6. current's going to advance to there, which is now null. And so then outside of this while loop, we're going to tack on this last bit, the closing bracket, and then return that list. So that's the goal. Notice, it is way easier to kind of draw something out on paper first and do some figuring before we start coding. I think once we have that, it's not too hard to switch over to the coding. I'm going to close that whiteboard. I know that my writing is a little messy, but sorry. And then we'll share my screen. Maybe, yes. Okay. Excuse me. So we're going to start off with this result. Starting off with an open brace. And then we're going to say if front does not equal null. So we have something in our list. We're going to say result equals, we could do plus equals. We're going to add to the result front.data, the first number. That. Now we're going to set up, let's see, let me move that up a little bit. We're going to set up a integer link node called current. Or started off equaling front.next. And now we'll draw a while loop. While current is not equal to null, so that means it's pointing at a node. That means we can add what it's pointing at, the data value in that thing, to result. Plus equals. Well, first we're going to add comma in the space. And then we're going to add. So if we think about what was on our whiteboard, which is hard for me to go back to, but it's going to be current dot data. Trying to remember if it's current dot next. It's not. It's current dot data. And we're adding that with the comma space, and then we're letting current equal current dot next. This is going to add the things in the middle, comma space number, comma space number, comma space number, until current equals null. Once current equals null, we're coming out of this if statement. We're coming out of this while loop, out of this if statement, and we're going to return the result plus the closing bracket like that. Here's my cameo with my other cat. Jump over there. Okay. And that should do it. We would want to check it. So I have a client. I don't know if we want to go back to that client or if we want to do a new client. Maybe I think we could just do a new client. So I have this stuff in a chapter 16 somewhere here. Chapter 16. I have a client. Let's just look at it. It's the same one we worked on in class. If I just run it, we'll see that it has size 2 and a 5, a 10, no 7. So it doesn't hurt just to use the same client. We could also just recode a new client. Here I'm calling it list1. So to check that this toString method worked, let's just do a new client. It seems a little lazy to use that client. So let's go back over here to File, make a new class. We'll call it link integer list client 2. And I do want a main. And then I can just start off by creating a new linked integer list. Let's call it linked integer list 1. equals new linked integer list. I want to do that so that I can print it right now. Delist. Make sure that that works properly with an empty list. And it does. And now hopefully we've already checked that add works, but list one dot add, let's add 8. I don't know what my numbers I used. I guess it doesn't matter. List, oh, so if we add 8, then we're going to print it with just one element. Element. And it should just have a list with 8 in it. And then we'll add a few more elements. List one dot add 6. And then we'll just do one more of these with multiple elements. This is allowing us to test the different cases that could happen when we want this toString thing to work. Nothing, one element, multiple elements. Okay, so I think that does toString. Go back to that code for a second. Linked integer list here. Get that on screen if you need to pause it. I'm going to highlight it off of here. And now we have a few more methods to get to. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and make a new one.